This week on London Real, we have spoken word artist Suli Breaks.
We always have this idea in our mind that we're going to get to where we want to be, and then we can sit back and be like, I've made it, now let me enjoy life. But the enjoyment comes from the journey. How would you feel if I told you that crazy people would one day rule the world? I relate to the tech industry because it's all rebellious, you know what I mean? And the fact that you get people to fund these rebellious ideas is winning, you know what I mean? As if education is the key, then school is the lock.
What is this tour around the world in 80 days?
As an artist, your work is based on your experience. Imagine if you had lots more experiences, if you met a lot more people. And I mean, my goal to release in the next year is an album, a portrayal of my work, and something that is representative of everyone. We will not let exam results decide our fate. It's a journey into inspiration, innovation, and information, I suppose.
London Real presents Suli Breaks, spoken word.
You're going to grow older, you're going to grow wiser, and you're going to look back at these things in a different light.
I am standing outside of Rough Trade, which is one of the few remaining record stores you will see in the city of London. We're here off of Brick Lane here in Shoreditch, and this place is pretty old school. It's been the host of live performances and the who's who of music who rolls through this part of Brick Lane in the Shoreditch area of East London. And so we're going to be taking a stroll through the cool part of Brick Lane, and then also the best place to get a curry side of Brick Lane. They both are very endearing, both changing a lot. This whole neighborhood is changing big time around here. I would be honest in saying it's getting a little less cool, but you know, what you gonna do? Speaking of cool, this week we have an old guest from London Real and a co-host who's joined me on two of our epic episodes. You might have remembered our show with E.T., Eric Thomas, the hip-hop preacher, and one with Immortal Tech, who is the very well-known American hip-hop artist. And both of those were co-hosted with me by a Mr. Suli Breaks. And he is a spoken word artist from London. And if you don't know what that means, it means it's a poet who speaks his poetry. And he does it without the use of a beat. So you wouldn't call him a rapper by any means. His pieces are anywhere from, say, 4 to 8 minutes long. He puts them on YouTube a lot of time with visuals or performs them live. And just makes you think about things in a different way than maybe you would have already. And he became pretty famous about a year ago with this video, Why I Hate School But Love Education, and followed it up with some other videos, one of which was called I Will Not Let an Exam Result Decide My Fate. And funny enough, the actor Will Smith posted that video on his Facebook page, and as Suli and I discussed, you know, he's got 57 million likes on his Facebook page, so when he posts something that Suli made, then it gets some exposure. And now Suli is embarking on a pretty crazy adventure. It's called Around the World in 80 Days, and Suli will literally be traveling around the world to 6 different continents in the next 80 days. And getting experience. And I think as an artist, that's what it's all about, is getting those experiences so he can come back and I think drop some more knowledge on us and let us know some more things about ourselves and just about the world we live in. So I sat down with a good hour with Suli. As I remarked to him in the beginning of the show, he looks different than he did 10 months ago when we had him on as a guest. He's matured exponentially, and it's just kind of very exciting to watch this young artist progress through the world. He's involved with a bunch of technology startup companies here in Shoreditch, and he's obviously taking his game to the next level, and then the next level, and then the next level. So it's inspiring as well. So I really hope you enjoy this. Please follow me with Suli around the world in 80 days as we watch all the places he's going to. He's going to be shooting footage, and then when he gets back, I believe he's going to work on an entire album and reflect on everything he learned. So check that out, and I hope you enjoy Suli Breaks. As you can probably guess, we are not sponsored by the amazing curry houses here from Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India. No, we are sponsored by the folks at Bulletproof. Yes, the main product of Bulletproof is their coffee, which is a coffee that's free of molds and toxins. You mix it up with some grass-fed butter, ideally Kerrygold butter, which is made in Ireland, and then you combine some MCT oil, which we're going here. Stop Tobacco Project for Bangladesh, which we got a little moss going on here. What was I? Oh, Bulletproof. You add in the MCT oil, which is the brain octane oil, and I mix it up, and it's a brew. I serve it on the show. Suli's drank it, and it's fantastic. It's a great way to start your day. It's like a meal replacement, and these guys are really plugged in when it's got to do with all sorts of health. I think Dave Asprey, the Bulletproof exec, has just started doing some writing for one of the men's magazines as well. So these guys are plugged in all aspects of your biology. I'm going to be dropping some videos coming up soon that will be talking about sleep hacking. They'll be sponsored by Bulletproof, and I've been tracking my sleep now every night with an app that sits on my bed, and it allows me to find out how long I've been sleeping, what kind of sleep I've had, the deep sleep, the not so deep sleep, and I think it's something we all should be looking into. So that's coming up soon, and I'm going to keep you in touch with those videos. Other than that, we have just released our Android app. I get tweets all the time that are like, Brian, I don't play the iTunes game. How can I get the audio? So now you can just download the app right to your Android. Go to our website, there's a blog post, there'll be a button soon, and you can download that. It's got all the videos, all the audio, our Twitter links, my email address, everything. So get involved with that. I hope I'm giving you a nice little tour of Brick Lane here. We got a little sign here in multiple language up on this brick up here. Hope you can see that. There it is. Our tour through East London. So check that app out, and if you want to volunteer and help us out, we would love the help. We got some real people that are helping us out recently. We got Malik rocking from Brunei, and Robin as well from the UK. So appreciate those guys' help. Get involved, send me an email, brian@londonreal.tv, Twitter, etc. We got a bunch of cool guests coming up, some comedians, some musicians. So if you got any ideas, then shoot them to me. And in the meantime, we'll be keeping it real in London, hence the name London Real. And now I give you Mr. Suli Breaks.
Cool. Shall we do this?
Yeah, let's go, man.
All right, man, let's do it. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. We're sponsored today by the folks at Bulletproof Coffee, which, if you've been paying attention, it's a coffee that's free of molds and toxins. I mix it up with grass-fed butter in the morning and some brain octane oil, which is like the best of the coconut oil. And boom, there you go. It's like this frothy broth that I drink up almost instead of breakfast. I've even served it to Suli on a couple of occasions. And yeah, it's good stuff. It's made by biohackers, and they just look at different ways to kind of hack your body in a good way. And yeah, it keeps me alert in the morning, and like I said, keeps me a little lean. So thanks to those guys and the Bulletproof executive, Mr. Dave Asprey. I'm actually going to be doing a whole set of videos on sleep hacking coming up in the next few months. I don't know how your sleep is, but
no, at the moment it's bad, but it needs to be better. Sleep is important. I'm not trying to hack my sleep, man. I'm trying to appreciate it.
Yeah, you should, man. I mean, I used to be one of the tough guys. It's like I'm only going to sleep 4 or 5 hours a night, but now I'm thinking I try to get my 7 or 8 every night. So,
yeah, definitely, man. I definitely agree.
It's just going to be like little tips and just basic stuff that I don't even think most people think about. So.
Yeah, it's important, man. After a while, it gets counterproductive not sleeping. You know, your productivity levels start to slow down. I've been there.
Yeah, and then it catches up to you in a big way. So anyways, thanks out to those guys. If you want to check out their website, it's upgradedself.com, and you can pick up the coffee and all their other good stuff. My guest today is Mr. Suli Breaks, who is a spoken word artist from London, whose videos include Why I Hate School But Love Education, I Will Not Let an Exam Result Decide My Fate. You've racked up now over 10 million views on YouTube, and you've got almost 200,000 subscribers, which if you're not a YouTube guy, you don't know that the YouTube subscriber is like the most coveted metric on the internet.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, especially on YouTube, man. It's the most difficult one to get. So yeah, it's a big deal.
I mean, Twitter followers, Facebook likes, who cares, right? But if you get a sub, it means you've got someone that basically says, I want to see your content in the future.
Consistently.
And YouTube values that in a big way. Both Sully and I have both been down to the YouTube studios, which I think if you have around over 15,000 subs, you can use for free. I think about right. Maybe
I'm not sure what number it is, but they let you in. And it depends, actually. There's certain privileges which are allowed to people who have more subscribers. I only found that out last time I was there.
Okay. So they showed you probably like the really cool stuff.
They dropped, it's like if you want to book out the studio for a certain amount of time, and then they dropped it on me, how many subs do you have? And I said, I have 170,000. And they said, okay, that's cool, innit? But it's reserved for, you have to have a certain amount to do certain things in there.
Did they give you the secret handshake? And
private
dining room? Yeah. I'm not even talking about my subs because, you're really making me look bad today.
No, that's not true, man. It's quality over quantity.
Recently, the actor Will Smith said, quote, I'm really impressed with this young man. He also posted one of your videos. I think it was exam result.
Yeah, I will not let an exam result decide my fate. Yeah.
Right. In addition to that, you're also involved with some tech startups here in the Silicon Roundabout, and you're about to embark on your Around the World in 80 Days tour.
Yeah.
Which we got to get into this because that's pretty crazy. Let me just finish up your intro. You've been here as my co-host for Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher.
That was a good one.
That was cool. And for Immortal Technique.
That was a good one as well.
The famous American hip hop artist. That was intense. And you are making your second appearance here on London Real. You're one of very few guests that have been here twice.
Oh, wow. I'm privileged.
Yeah, you're with the likes of Graham Hancock. You're with the likes of Eddie Bravo from 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu. And then the doctor, the surgeon, Richard Viller, who goes into like emergency areas. So you're back. Welcome back to London.
It's a pleasure to be here again, man. It's a pleasure as always, man.
Dude, man, I don't even think this is work because we kind of do this once every couple months anyways.
Just chill and just have our own little London rule anyway. You get what I'm saying? So yeah.
Right, like you drop by and we ended up talking, and it's like 3 hours later. Right, we should probably film those. So I was just looking at our previous video. It was 10 months ago you were here.
Was it 10 months ago?
Yeah.
Time flew by.
Flew by, and it was you and me, and it was Patrick Vickers, who was I think it was Saving Our Streets.
Yeah, so he works at SOS. Yeah,
is how we first got hooked up, and it was funny because I was looking at that picture from the three of us talking, and I was watching a bit of the video, and you're a different guy than you were 10 months ago.
Really?
Like distinctly different. You look different. You just look like a guy that's a bit more seasoned. You look like I don't know what it is, man. It's not like you're more confident, but it just seems like you've just grown exponentially. I don't know. What's it been like for the last 10 months?
It's been, I think maybe it's starting to show in my face, but it's been hectic. Yeah, Brian, just from that place I was there, and for everything to grow into what it is now. I'm not saying that I didn't want it to happen or I didn't predict it to an extent. You always want it, but it just grew so fast. You know what I mean? I was here. The next, I'm in Toronto, places I've never been to before. I'm in New York. Then I'm in Israel, and then you start getting stopped on the train. At that time, my videos were popular, but I think I started to release a few more, and I would not let an exam result decide my fate hadn't been out then.
Yeah.
So that came out. The next thing, I'm in the Houses of Parliament. Like, how did we get to the Houses of Parliament? You know what I mean? So all of it was happening just really, really fast, and I'm just meeting all these people. So there definitely has been a lot of growth, but it's been, I think the journey is all about, like London Real is all about the journey, you know what I mean? And I'm just learning to enjoy the journey, but the journey has been phenomenal. And I'm grateful that I can look back at that video and be like, where I was 10 months ago, I'm significantly further ahead than I was then. So yeah, it's been good, man. It's been an experience, if anything.
It's interesting because I meet young guys all the time, and if you had just been doing the same thing you've been doing for the last 10 months, I think you might look the same, And it's weird for me to see the fact that you've kind of taken on all these new challenges. I'm sure you've had some disappointments and then some like great, amazing expectations. But it's amazing how quickly those kind of things build character. Whether if say you were just clocking the same job 9 to 5 all the time, maybe you wouldn't have changed as an individual.
Maybe, it's funny because I think if I watch the video back as well, I'll just be looking back and thinking, oh my God, like I can see the difference. But unless you look at it in hindsight, you never really appreciate that 10-month transition. And when I think of all the things that have been crammed into that short space of time, it's been a lot. Like the people I've met, the places, the things I've seen, and the things I've learned. Most importantly, the things I've learned. It's been more overwhelming than reading it in a book or learning. Like, there were certain things that I'd never experienced before. Experiencing them things, it's just amazing, man.
Is there any one event that sticks out? Because I've seen you here when you're getting calls from the BBC to come on TV. We saw you at Parliament doing that. You spoke at a big conference in Toronto. You've been to Israel. Is there any one that sticks out as like a big experience for you? Because you seem to take it in stride.
I try to keep level-headed, because when I first started out, everything that happened, when you make it into a big deal, it leads to a lot of disappointment. So like something would happen, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is it, I've made it, you know, and then I'd get disappointed. And that happened consistently. So I got to the point where I learned to take things into my stride, except for when Will Smith tweeted my video. Except for, I mean, that is the point where I couldn't compose myself. Obviously, it's just a tweet, but you know, that's Will Smith, and for someone of that stature, that's like Obama to us, you know what I mean? Someone of that stature to appreciate what I'm doing, for me, that would always stick out. I think that would always stick out. It's just a tweet, but it was a big deal for me.
I think he's probably got more likes on Facebook and more Twitter followers than Obama.
Yeah, it probably does. He has
Right.
56 million people on Facebook.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I saw that when I was in New York over Christmas, and I saw that because somebody tweeted me, and they're like, "Did you check Sully got the shout out from Will?" And I was just wondering what you were feeling like. But you know, you've had so many like, you know, great things happen to you. I assume and I know that you kind of take it in stride, right?
Yeah, I try
what,
to.
What does everyone tell you when that happens?
Everyone tells you you've made it, even from getting like 50,000 views, people tell you that you've made it, you know what I mean? Just getting 50,000 views or getting tweeted by someone like locally, people say you've made it, you know, you're going to be the next big star. So I've been hearing that over the 10 months consistently, you know what I mean? But when Will Smith does it, people just go ballistic, you know what I mean? My mum's downstairs, has he called you? You know, all that kind of stuff. It's like, to keep composed is very difficult. So you have to learn to take it in your stride, or you'll just lose yourself in the whole, like, the whole excitement that's going on around you, the whole atmosphere where everyone's like, oh, I can't believe this, you know?
Right, because the next day you basically have to go right back to work and keep doing what you're doing.
It wears off. You have to just keep on going, and you need to have that focus whereby, okay, that's good, but let's keep this train moving. You know what I mean? That's a good pit stop. You know, we refresh. Let's keep on moving. But at the same time, in that scenario with the Will Smith tweet, I kind of, you know, I enjoyed my stop for a while.
Like 3 days.
Yeah, and I was on a high. I was on a high, man. I'm not gonna lie.
It's funny because you got it's getting that whole, it's about the journey mentality. You know, you got to think of those things as like the trappings of your work.
Yeah.
And those things are just things that kind of come after the fact.
They do.
That wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been doing what you were doing the last year, 2 years, 3 years.
No, it wouldn't have.
Right.
It wouldn't have, you know what I mean? And it's like, with the journey, people need to learn to appreciate the journey. Like you're saying, the journey is so important because we always have this idea in our mind that we're going to get to where we want to be, and then we can sit back and be like, I've made it, now let me enjoy life. But the enjoyment comes from the journey. So I'm just trying to learn to appreciate the journey and like those things, the little enjoyments within.
Now, speaking of journeys, I was going to wait to ask about this, but it's such a crazy undertaking that I just want to ask you about it now. What is this tour around the world in 80 days? You know, where did you come up with it? And is it really what you're talking about? Is it really around the world in 80 days?
It's around the world in 8 days. We're navigating the globe. How did it start? I think it's best just to tell it like in a narrative, because it's basically, the way it works is like, me and a friend of mine were sitting there, and it's like, as an artist, your work is based on your experience. So you're only as good as your experiences. I think a true artist, because you can manufacture art, but genuine art comes from what you've experienced. And he was saying to me how you've only experienced this certain amount of things. Imagine if you had lots more experiences, if you met a lot more people. And I mean, my goal to release in the next year is an album, a portrayal of my work, and something that is representative of everyone. So the idea was, how is he going to help me meet as many people as possible in this and get that into the work and let that fuel into my material? So he was like, he took out the book. He said, have you read the book Around the World in 80 Days? It's on a separate meeting. I was like, yeah, vaguely, I'm familiar with it. I haven't read it. He goes, how about you cram all these experiences into 80 days, you know? Cram everything, all these places in 80 days. So like in the book, there was a budget of 20,000. You know, he said, okay, we'll give you, there's a certain budget. You go around the world in that space of time, you know what I mean?
Was this in a balloon? What is that book? And when was it written? I barely remember it.
Jules Verne, I barely remember.
Jules Verne, okay.
I just started reading it recently myself.
Okay. So Jules Verne, was the guy in a balloon or what?
He was in a hot air balloon, I
Okay.
believe.
And and did he go on crazy adventures too?
Yeah, different adventures. He navigated the globe. So we're trying to touch every single continent. You know what I mean? And what it is for me really is not just about getting experiences for myself as an artist and experiencing these and then fueling them into my material. It's also allowing people to follow me on that journey as well through that path, because I feel like not only am I providing an example for people who are from my environment of how you can be successful by just following your passion, at the same time I want to introduce them to a new world around where people are also following their passion, and there's so many exciting things that are going on. I just want to help people to follow that journey, because one of the main things for me growing up was that we never had any examples of what we could attain. We never saw the world outside of our environment, and I just want to give people that opportunity to see that and see the potential is limitless behind what they can achieve.
You said growing up. Where do you mean? You mean where you grew up here in London?
Growing up, yeah, in London.
And what was that like? You're saying it's a world where you don't see what's outside of there, or you don't see what other people doing different things?
You don't see. I mean, the whole ethos was you get a degree and you become a professional, or you get a job which allows you to get by. And the way we grew up in that environment, it was a lot orientated around gang culture to an extent, whereby you're restricted to the area you're from. It goes to the point where I was with one of my younger friends the other day, and I took him to South London, and he said to me, "Is this what South London looks like?" And I mean, he lives in East London. You know what I mean? It was to the extent where we never actually left our environment, because there's a phrase we use which is it's slipping. You're not supposed to be caught out of your own area. So with that, there's a group mentality, and that group mentality was formulated around the concept that you can only be what you see. It's your field of availability. You only perceive you can be what you see around you. You know what I mean? That's why so many kids get involved in like in crime, because crime is one of the alternatives which allows you to live past to make money past the potential of like a postman or another job. You know what I mean? Nothing wrong with being a postman, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's really just that limitations. It wasn't until I went to university outside in Sheffield that my mind expanded. So I want to get people to have that same experience through following me. If you appreciate me as an artist, then hopefully I can take you on a journey and allow you to expand your mind. And then hopefully that's also going to be replicated in my art and all the products I create off that journey.
But were you born in London?
Yeah, I was born in London. I was born in actually North London.
And where in North London? Where are you from roughly, and how long were you there for?
I have a strange story, because I'm from Wood Green, and I was actually born in Enfield, which is right next to Wood Green.
Okay.
But what happened was that as a child, I lived in Ghana for a couple of years, for about maybe 3 years, and I came back to London. And when we came back to London, we moved around to different places. So I was in East for a bit, I was in South for a bit. Then eventually I came back to Wood Green I think it was about the year 2001, 2002. So I was back in where I started, and I've been there for the past maybe 10 years.
Okay. Yeah. Was that good, you think, moving around? Do you think that helped subconsciously?
On a subconscious level, I think it did. I didn't like it as a kid. I didn't like it. A lot of people say it's good to get experiences, but I didn't like it because I never felt that I settled in. And you always had to settle into pre-existing social groups. You always had to try and fit in to ones that were always set. But I did think it allowed me to always have a kind of individualistic mentality, because it was never shaped too much by one set of group, because I'd move from this group to that group to this group. But as a child, it was difficult. But I think on a level, it always made me feel distinguished from other people, in the sense that I never shared one group mentality for too long.
And were you always going to go to university? Was that always a given?
Always. It was always a given.
Is that because of where you were living in Wood Green, or is that because of your parents, or why?
That's an interesting question. It was mainly because of my parents, but also because it was as a child being quite exceptional. It was kind of like, that's the best you can achieve. That's the height. That's the epitome of your success. So it was kind of, the part was already laid for me. You're in academia, you're quite good. That's where you're going to end up. So
you knew you were pushing yourself to go.
I wasn't avidly pushing myself, but my preordained kind of destination was that I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to play basketball. I enjoyed playing basketball, but it was like, and I to an extent, I was actually actively rebelling against having to go that direction. But when all else failed or didn't go so well, that was my only alternative.
Okay, so you were trying not to go the university route.
No,
and you were
I
thinking
was trying
basketball,
not to. Yeah,
and then it went that way.
I was trying to do everything. I was trying to do basketball. I was trying to rap, because I just saw I saw it there. But I'm very stubborn to the extent where I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to be like everyone else in the environment. Like I was saying, I wanted to show that there was more potential to be achieved than just what we were limited and restricted to see.
And we've talked about it before, I think, on your last episode.
Yeah.
And a lot of your spoken word talks about this. I mean, a lot of parents push their kids to get degrees that they can put on the wall and then tell their friends about.
Yeah.
And then they're less concerned with what you do after that. They're less concerned about your employment, or even,
Yeah, it's just it's just for merit, just for accolades in it.
And I listen to you, and I'm someone who kind of goes against the grain. And I was just thinking of my daughter the other day. I'm like, she's going to go to law school. And I was like, What would Sully say? He'd be like smacking me in the head, you know. And so it's something that's really in our culture and it's in our subconscious, isn't it?
Yeah.
To just for those kids, what is it? To get that degree or to get that stamp of social approval?
It's security, I suppose, isn't it?
Is it?
That's the thing. It's not, is it? But that's the only way I can justify it in the sense that as a parent, I mean, I'm not a parent myself. But I can understand how you'd want your child to go the most secure route that would permit them to be able to provide for them or themselves, just be able to sustain themselves. And I think school provides that medium. University would provide that medium whereby it's security because you pay the fees and you're going to go through the course. As long as you're willing to do the tests and exams, you'll come out with something.
Yeah. No, I guess that is why we push it. All right, let's get back really quickly.
Yeah.
Around the world in 80 days, what countries, cities are you going to hit? Are you going to come back to London for a break in that whole 80 days? Talk to me.
That's the thing. I'm not going to see my bed for 3 months. I'm not seeing London City
crazy,
for 3 months.
way.
It really is. It dawned on me today that I'm not going to see London for 3 months straight. I think that would probably be the longest, apart from when I was young, and that would probably be the longest I've been away with no break. So yeah, we're gonna start off in London, then we're gonna start off in Europe. We're gonna head to Stockholm, Berlin, then we're gonna head to Istanbul, then we start to Tel Aviv, then we go to Mumbai, then I think we just head straight to Asia. Then we're going to Beijing. Then
have you been to China before?
Never. That was one of the destinations where I had to put that. That was my ambition. I said I have to go to China.
Okay.
We're gonna go to Beijing. We're gonna go to Tokyo as well. We was even going to go to Korea, South Korea, but it wasn't going to happen. And then we're coming back to, I've missed out quite a few. Sydney, we're going to go to Australia.
You are going down
Yeah,
there.
we're going to go to Australia. We're going to go to Ghana. We're going to go to Johannesburg. We're going to go to New York. Yeah, so it's quite...
Are you doing any South America?
Yeah, Brazil, Rio.
You're going to Rio too?
Yeah.
Jesus. And how many places in America are you stopping?
Only three. San Francisco, LA, and New York.
Okay, so you're covering it all.
Yeah.
So you're going to miss Antarctica.
Yeah, Antarctica, yeah.
But you're hitting every other continent
Every other
besides
continent, yeah.
Okay, that's intense, man.
It really, really is, man. But it's for the sake, it's for the passion, it's for the audience, it's for the sake of let's show them where we can push the art. I want to do, as an artist, I've always said I want to do something different. I want to stand out and show that it's just like I do with everything. It just doesn't have to be like this. And there's so much more you can do. I want to push the boundaries as an artist. So when people come back and look at it, they'll be like, oh, to top that, I've got to do something more, and hopefully just increase everything.
What's been the response so far to you taking this trip? What are your friends telling you? What's your mom telling you?
Everyone, the response, everyone's like, I can't believe it. I mean, it's all excitement, you're so lucky. But people don't understand the logistics and planning that goes into it, which is extremely strenuous, you know what I mean?
Right.
The planning, it hasn't even dawned on me what I'm doing because we're so involved in the planning of the whole logistics of the accommodation, where we're going to stay and who we're going to be meeting, all that kind of stuff. So it hasn't really hit me what I'm doing, but the response has been crazy. My mum's, my parents are a bit, they're a bit,
Parents
sure?
just don't understand.
They don't.
What is she saying? Like, you should, you shouldn't? I'm going to miss you? What's she saying?
She said I'm going to miss you. She knows she can't tell me that I can't, innit? Like, she knows that's who I am. It's like, if I say I'm going to do it, I've set my mind on it, I'm going to do it. But it's all just be very careful, you have just a lot of worries, And then she wants to find a way for her to get involved as well. So she's saying, let me pack your medicines, let me pack your bag, you know what I mean? Just to contribute towards it.
And what are you going to be doing over there? Are you going to be performing? Are you going to be meeting people? Are you going to see in companies? I know you do, you got some tech interests. What are you doing?
All of them.
All of those
things.
things.
All of those things. It's going to be performing where it's possible. I've got right now, we've got a few scheduled in Ghana. That's a definite. I'm going to be performing where it's possible. We're going to be meeting people. There's a wide network of people around the world.
What kind of people you want to meet?
I just want to meet people who are just passionate and who are just doing interesting things, not and who are passionate about it. Just find interesting ways to innovate their craft or their passion and just doing it in an interesting way and doing it in a way that stands out. So I'm connected with a network called Sandbox, which is just a group of like-minded people who are just really interested, and every week they do events and people discuss what they do. I'm going to be meeting some of the Sandboxers out there. At the same time, we're going to be meeting some entrepreneurs who are involved in tech companies. So when we go to Stockholm, is it Stockholm? Yeah, Stockholm. We're going to go into the SoundCloud offices.
Nice.
And, Berlin, the Spotify offices.
Cool.
Just to really just increase my experience as a person, meet different types of people, but also increase the engagement with my audience and that kind of world, and see some of the things that go on behind the scenes to an extent.
It's tricky to find the most interesting people because it's not necessarily going to be the politicians or the actors or the football players.
Yeah.
You got to find the people that have like a groove that you want to see.
Yeah,
right?
you know what I'm saying?
I think entrepreneurs can be fun that way because they have a feel what's going on kind of locally, but then they're also looking globally.
Yeah, and it's so many dynamics to them. I definitely agree, man. So I mean, the one consistent thing, the one constant would be that they're passionate about what they do and they've allowed it to dominate their lives, if you know what I mean.
Okay. Should people tweet to you, I guess, if they want you to come hang out with them in whatever city?
Hopefully, man. Hopefully. I actually was going to put a list of everywhere I'm going to be, exactly when I'm going to be there, but then I thought that might get a bit too, I don't want, too detailed. So I'm just going to I have a site which I've set up, but I'm just going to put the relevant events that people can find me at.
Okay.
But if you want to tweet me and I'm in your town, I'll be more than happy to go and meet up,
And you're at Suli Breaks, right?
At Suli Breaks,
on Twitter. Okay, good. So if you guys are in one of those cities and you think there's someone that you might find really interesting to come see, or if it's at your person, then they should tweet.
Yeah, definitely. I just want it to be very organic and I don't want it to make it too rigid. You know what I mean? I want it to be like, if I need to get on a bus to Cape Town from Johannesburg, we'll do it.
Okay. All right. You're 20 days in. You've been you got these little shower soaps at all these hotels. You haven't seen a rainy day in a long time because you haven't been to London. How are you going to stay excited when you keep going? When you've done the initial, they call it adrenaline dump, when guys go fight in the cage for the first time. How are you going to keep it going? When you're doing all these things, have you thought about that?
I haven't. That's what I'm dreading. When you're halfway through and you're thinking, I just want to be back home. You know what I mean? I want to be in my comfortable bed. With a clean pair of boxes that I don't have to wash in the sink. But I think. Hopefully, what I'm hoping is that the engagement that I have going on virally and the connection with my audience is going to give me new challenges every day and a new way to spur me forward. Hopefully, I'm meeting people and I'm experiencing things in the way I haven't experienced them before. And that's never going to allow it to get too repetitive, Yeah. I'm just hoping on that. So the engagement and consistency of talking to my audience is going to be really, really important for me. And getting stuff out there to them is going to be important.
Yeah, I find it's always the people that they remind you why you're doing what you're doing.
Exactly, you know what I mean? It's the same with anything, innit? It's even with London Real, it's there's some days where you're tired to get an interview in, or there's sometimes you're tired to write, but then you'd get a message which kind of just gives you that sense of that vigor again.
Yeah, for me, it's logistics. And then when I have a guest, I'll leave just feeling really pumped up. I don't know why. If it's that exposure, or I just realize why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I don't know. It makes all the difference. Talk to me about Ghana. What's your relationship like with Ghana? What's Ghana like? I've been to South Africa and North Africa. I've never been
to West.
I've never been to West.
Oh man, Ghana's a beautiful place. For me, it's kind of it's to an extent home away from home, because it's one of the few places where I can go and I feel comfortable. I don't feel like I'm on holiday. I feel like I'm just relaxing at home, It's nice. The weather's nice. But also because I used to go there quite frequently, I've established quite a group of friends so it's when I go back, it's meeting old friends and I don't feel uncomfortable. I've always got someone to show me around. I have a family base there. For me, it's like home away from home. It's a beautiful city. It's always, every time you go there, there's something new. It's developing so fast. So every time you go there, there's something you haven't seen before, or there's a new kind of practice, or there's a new kind of dance, a new kind of terminology. It's consistently changing.
That fast, huh?
Really, really fast.
That's
really
exciting.
Fast. I used to go there every year when I was younger. And I'd go there for a year and I'd come back the next year and everything completely changed to the point where we used to go basketball. This guy was the best player on the court. Now there's a new guy. This guy's no good anymore. You know what I mean? The cultural shift is so amazing. So it's always nice to just see something every time I'm going there.
And are you a celebrity down there? Come on.
I have support. I have support. I think it's steadily even growing a support base. Yeah, I've got quite a few supporters out there.
Who are the famous Ghanaians? Is that, what do you say?
Ghanaians. Yeah.
Who are the famous ones?
Who are the famous ones? Well, historically, be Kwame Nkrumah. He helped Ghana gain its independence.
Okay.
Right now, Idris Elba's half Ghanaian. What we do as Africans, you always claim, the little bits. Idris Elba's half Ghanaian.
Okay, so that's good. Everybody does that, by the way. Okay,
so we have to claim Idris Elba a little bit. I'm trying to think who's more popular. A lot of the artists are local artists. Yeah, probably a lot of local artists that you probably wouldn't have heard of. There's Sarkodie. There's a few guys in England who are quite popular as well, but they're of Ghanaian heritage. But right there, I'd have to go there because I'd probably say someone now, then I'd go there and they'll be like, oh, he's old news.
Right,
You
right,
know
right,
what I
right,
mean?
right. And you do spoken word, which is obviously not acting. It's not music.
Yeah.
It's this art form that's, I think it's good because it challenges people to get their head around art. But how does that make when you actually try to appeal to an audience, a Ghanaian audience or in other ones as well? I mean, how do they see you? Because they don't see you in videos. They don't see you as Nelson Mandela. You know, so who do they see you? Like, how do they relate to you?
That's a really, really tricky question. And in the respect that I think the English is the main language there as well.
Okay,
so,
that helps. So that helps.
Yeah,
a lot,
so that helps a lot. Somewhere like China, when I wanted to go out to China and I was trying to hook up like somewhere to perform, the guys had just said to me, because the language barrier is may not work unless you wanted to collaborate with a Chinese artist. But the language barrier is a big issue, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But whereas with Ghana, and my subject matter, I think is so far-reaching that everybody can relate to it. So I think we find that common ground, and especially me being the thing about Africans, we appreciate Africans that come from other countries a lot more than we appreciate. You know what I'm saying? So even if they didn't understand me, the fact that I've just come from England and I'm doing something new is going to give me an appeal.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So there's that appeal, and I can speak the local dialect anyway, so it's not.
That helps.
Yeah, it helps a lot.
You know, that language issue is tricky because you use very specific diction in your performances.
Yeah.
And a lot of your performance is wordplay, and some of it is subtle rhyme.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of things that where you not only need to know English, it almost needs to be a first language.
Yeah,
to get the nuance of what you're saying, right?
When I see people from like Greece or people maybe from like Japan, like who really like are in tune with what I'm saying and really get it, and I can speak to them on Skype and English is not that great, that really just baffles my mind, you know what I mean? Because like you're saying, I really thought there's a certain like complexity about it that you have to grasp to appreciate it as a whole. But I suppose people pick what they can identify with, and I think it just resonates with them to the extent whereby what they don't understand, they go and look for it. Because I was speaking with someone a while back, and he was saying with my searches, so many people search for the lyrics of what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I think it does provide that incentive to I grasp what he's saying, but I want to know more.
Yeah.
Which works for me to an extent as
I think it's like a good hip hop lyric that at first it sounds good, and then the more and more you listen to it, you understand it a little bit better and better. I remember listening to like a Biggie Smalls song, and I was in the gym with my headphones on, and I'd never heard it in a certain way. And I finally got one of the words that he said, and it was like I must have heard the song 100 times.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's what I love about Nas as well. I can listen to Nas like to this day, listen to something you made 10 years ago, and I'm still discovering new things.
Right.
And that's what I think is a good art, whereby you're noticing things way after you've heard it.
And your stuff is the same, or you'd like it to be the
I'd
same?
like it to be the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you publish your lyrics, or do people break it down and put it out there?
People break it down, but I'm actively going to start publishing them. I think I'm going to actively start publishing them online so people can have a source to directly find them.
Okay. You know, there's a place in Time Out that used to ask how writers write. And it was like, how do you write? And it was fascinating because you always want to know how writers do it. Do they get up at 6 a.m.? Do they force themselves to do 200 words? You know, do they do it when they're strolling? Do they do this? Do they do that? So I was wondering, how do you create? You know, there's no deadlines on you that you have to do something by a certain amount of time. Like, how do you know when you need to put something out, when you need to hold back, you know, if you need to explore a different genre? I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's really just, it's very innate, it's a very feel. Because I went to a conference and I listened to Tim Ferriss speak, another guy, what's his name, Neil, I can't remember.
Strauss, right?
Neil Strauss,
in Toronto, yeah.
And they were talking how they write, like they write like a certain amount of time, certain words each day when they have a deadline. And I tried to implement that, you know, I really tried it, and I realized it doesn't work for me because I think mine is just very, very innate. You kind of just feel it. I write on the go. Someone could tell me to write something and it take me 6 weeks to write it simply because you have to, there has to just be right. It has to click at the right time. When I'm creating, it's just so, it's really, really just so like, it's going off the environment whereby I'm on the move on the train, something hits me and I'm jotting that down.
Okay.
A lot of the time I've sat down and focused to make something and then that's ended up being scrapped. But I've taken elements of it, but not all of it has worked out, you know what I mean? So it's really, I think writing is just about a collection of thoughts, and then when it comes to promoting them or putting them out as a project or like a piece, it's just organizing those thoughts. Because I'm taking stuff I've written 5 years ago and putting them in something I wrote just yesterday, or I took something I'm writing like a second ago and I'm mixing it with another idea I had for something else, you know what I mean? I think it's really just that collage and I think the skill is in me learning how to organize those thoughts, not really coming up with them because they're always flowing through my head. It's just how am I going to organize them in a way which everybody can appreciate them.
So you're constantly writing stuff down?
constantly. But then I can go stints with not writing at all.
Okay. Notebooks? How do you do it?
I used to have my iPhone. I was an iPhone, which I got. It was BlackBerry, which I got really accustomed to. Then it was iPhone, and now I've got a Samsung, and it's got a pen, but I can't write with it. So I'm just trying. I've started walking around with a notepad in my bag, so that might be the next medium. But it's really just But it's anything goes. Sometimes it's just off head. Just keep on reciting to yourself in your head, and then you just jot it down when you get home.
And art-wise for you, what are you going to be doing in the next year? Do you think is it going to be spoken word pieces? Is there going to be any music involved? Will you ever write a book? I mean, I'm sure people ask you these questions all the time, but what do you think?
It's definitely going to be music orientated.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've started to listen. I've been introduced to a lot of music, not really so much. I'm not sure what era it is, but like Tracy Chapman, Neil Young, like a lot of artists who kind of. I find what they do, it kind of resembles what I do as well. And they just translated it in a musical context. So for me, it's really just, how do I still do what I do, but then add but it's not going to be dominated by the music, because my strength is always going to be in the words. It's how am I going to add that musical element to what I do to enhance it and to bring more out of it. Because I think auditory, is that the term? From an auditory standpoint, I haven't really explored that. And like we were talking last time, I think it's a really powerful medium to engage with people.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a demand for it. Just checking off like my Spotify and iTunes traction, there is quite a demand for me to do more of that. And it's accessible. Everyone doesn't want to sit there for YouTube that whole time. And I find what is successful as audio can obviously can normally translate well into a video, but what's always successful as a video doesn't always translate well into audio. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to balance that.
Yeah, we were talking about that last time about how video sometimes can replace the content. You know, like
you know what I mean?
Sometimes you watch a video screen, it could be anything, and you're worried about all these things going on, and you don't have time to concentrate on the audio.
You don't.
And you can't really think about it because you're too busy.
You're too busy, and I was all about the visual because I'm a YouTube guy in the sense that YouTube gave me a platform, so I had to learn to utilize that to the maximum. And the visuals was very important to me when I record this. I see a lot of directors who direct spoken word videos, and they've got it all wrong simply just because the camera's not close enough to the person's face, you know, to create an emotion. So I was really in tune with the visual aspect of stuff because that's how I was trying to promote myself. But then I realized the visual is complementary. A lot of people like what I'm saying outside the context of the visual. But the visual works because in the generation that we're in, a lot of people don't have that time space. If they don't know you already, they're not going to go and look for you to listen to your audio. But I think going forward, I can make quite impact from the auditory perspective, making audio. So I'm going to definitely find a way to complement it with music, you know. And I just I like the challenge.
Yeah.
I think after a while, I get bored of just making videos. I need a new challenge to push myself.
And people need to know you by video. Like people, it would be hard for them to know Sully Breaks if you had just been putting audio clips out.
You know what I mean?
Because they need to know you. And that's same with us with London Real. I mean, for the beginning, we always did video because I figured you need to see these guys, see the close-ups, right? And get a read on them, and then you can become a fan.
Then you become a fan. Then you're committed to going to pick up the audio, you know?
Right, you're kind of invested in what they're doing.
Yeah, and you know it's quality, innit? Because people don't have time in it. Like, they're not going to go and put something in the iPod if it's not already pre-sold. It's not justified unless someone recommends it, you know? But whereas when they see it in a video, that's your portfolio or your CV, and they're like, okay, this guy is good for it. You know, I can go and listen to him for an hour on the audio.
Yeah. Well, what about collaboration? You mentioned like in China, they said unless you were collaborating with a local, I mean, that could be a huge market for you.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever collaborated with people? It's tricky. It must be. I don't even know how artists do it these days. I mean, when like Shakira and Beyonce collaborate, do they even see each other? No. They just cut the tracks in the studio, right? And say hi at award shows. I mean, I don't even know how that works.
Oh, really? It's interesting because some artists, I've done stuff where I've just cut something and sent it to someone, but it's always the best when you go into the studio and really put stuff together. But I have worked with artists, like local artists, my friends in the past. I've done a lot of that stuff. And if I'm honest with you, I don't really like collaborating too much. I'll collaborate if something really resonates with me the first time I hear it, and I'll be like, let me collaborate. But sometimes when you're collaborating, it feels like you're telling someone else's story too much. You know what I mean? If someone says, oh, can you collaborate on this specific track for me? I prefer to go in the studio and listen, both of us compose something together, so it's reflective of both of us. But I've got a collaboration that I'm doing at the moment. It's for quite a popular band actually, but I don't want to say too much right now. But I'm doing it, and hopefully that comes out. But I went with him. We went to the hotel. I listened to it. It was really cool, and I was like, yo, I can do this. But likewise, I wouldn't just go and just write something that I think suits the track. I'm going to give myself time and really just develop, and then put something down on the track.
I'm glad you're going into music. I'm actually surprised you said that.
Oh,
Just because I, you know, a lot of artists, you know, including myself, because I know you give me advice sometimes, is that they're pig-headed about, no, this is what I do, and this is what I do. And I just thought you might stick with spoken word.
Oh, I think the spoken word will always be the genre I'll classify it in, but I definitely want to go to. I want to explore that avenue. I want that challenge, and I don't think the spoken word is going to go anywhere. The videos will still be there. That's always going to be the forefront. But I definitely think that there's potential, and it's just listen to all this music from the past. You know, like Something Inside So Strong. All this stuff. It really. I feel it really embodies what I'm doing, and I feel like I can replicate what a lot of those great artists did, like in this modern context with what I do. So it's going to be a journey. Hopefully, you know, we'll see how that goes.
I think people, if they found a music track they liked on you, then of course they would come around and then get to your spoken
Yeah.
word. So I think I was telling you about the Doors the other day when you were here, and like how they made some, you know, Jim Morrison was their lead singer.
Yeah.
And he's a famous guy, wrote books and books of poetry, and some of his songs are almost just like spoken word.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
You know, and they're just, he was really not even breaking the mold because he was just doing whatever the hell.
Yeah.
I think his first few performances on stage, he had his back to the stage.
Serious?
And he had back to the people, and he would just sing. I mean, he was crazy, and he overdosed and all that stuff, but I mean, he definitely got a message across through his words via some music.
And that's what art's about, I think. And another thing about music, I think it's more accessible to a wider range of people, if you know what I mean. I think it gives it more, it allows it to be more accessible.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that's why as well. It give me a wider, it gives me a new challenge to reach more people.
So 90 days, you land. What do you think that Suli's going to be like? Like, well, ideally, what's going to happen? Of course, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But like, ideally, what would you like to do? You come back to London, say you sat back down and we just talked and you said, Brian, this happened, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Like, what would be the best scenario?
For me, it would have been I would have evolved as a person. Not only would I have met people, but the best scenario would be like I'd come back looking different. You know what I mean? And
Looking
I'd
different again.
Yeah, looking
Okay.
different, and I'd have a certain kind of. I want a deeper understanding of the world that you can't like you can't gain like just by being in one place. I really want that deep understanding, and as an artist, I just think I just want to explode as an artist, just with all that energy and all that. You know, I want it to be able to manifest itself so powerfully through what I'm saying. That'd be the ideal scenario for me.
And when you come back and like go to a cabin and just start writing?
That's the goal, man. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not sure how much is in the process of what we're gonna do, but the idea was to kind of set up a campaign, probably Kickstarter, whereby I'd allow people to contribute to whatever the project that I'm gonna make afterwards. But it's definitely gonna be come back 6 months about 6 months just straight pouring out everything while it's still fresh.
Okay.
And then putting that product out. You know what I mean?
Whether it's an album or a spoken word or a combination.
Yeah,
or
a combination.
something.
But it's definitely going to be, it'll be a combination of, definitely an album and spoken word. Just all the videos, all the work, everything's going to, I want it to pour out in that 6 month period and give it to everybody fresh. Obviously, there's going to be the documentary, the documentation of everything.
Right.
But aside from what's going to be on YouTube, but at the same time, I want that artistic perspective to just explode. Like,
That's exciting, man. Well, you're definitely going to come back a different person. That's regardless.
Yeah.
And it's going to be those days where you're like, I can't stay in another hotel. Sorry, I don't mean to keep harping on that.
that's the reality of it, though, isn't
I
it? Someone
know.
has to say the reality of it. Like,
But
true.
those are going to be the days where you grow the most, you know, and it's those hard times that are going to make it peak. You know, one of my co-hosts here, I think you met him, Colin Pyle.
Yeah,
he
I met
rode
Colin,
his
yeah.
motorcycle around China for
Yeah,
60
he told
days.
me the
And
record.
you see him on some of these days where he's in like a full suit, you know, it's 40-degree heat, and you can tell he's just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And, but, you know, in a weird way, that was the low point and the high
You
point.
need the low point in it. You need it to build up to the high point at the end.
So you're setting yourself
I'm setting
up.
myself up. I don't want to. I'm excited, but at the same time, I'm setting myself up for that. 3 months is a long time. 80 days is a long time. You can't deny that fact. Everybody's gonna become homesick, unfamiliar. You know, places that don't speak the language. You can't even get the food you want. You know what I mean?
and you're going to be documenting this on video daily?
We're going to document on video daily, but whether it's going to come online daily, that's different because I have to send it back to someone to edit it, Dropbox it, and then internet speeds, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to make any commitments to timing of when stuff is going to come out, but I'm going to be documenting daily.
Okay, good stuff. Talk to me about tech. You know, I bet a few years ago you didn't think you'd be hanging out in the Silicon Roundabout, you know, with all these new tech companies.
I didn't even know it existed.
Right? No, fair enough. I didn't either. But you know, but that's more about you as a journey, which is crazy because I wouldn't. When I met you, I think a year ago, you weren't talking to these companies or something.
Nah.
What's been? Why are you interested in tech? What's it been like for you? Has it affected your art at all? You think in the long run?
It's affected my perspective of what I want to do with my art because it's allowed me to see how you can manipulate like current structures and current industries and totally disrupt them through tech, you know what I mean? And going into the art world, there's so many things that are pre-existing structures, and it's just like every time I look at something, I'm like, how can I disrupt that? You know what I mean? You know, every time you see something, you're like, how can I change that? So it's giving me a different perspective on how I approach just art as a whole. And at the same time, it's an introduction to a new world, because I'm used to looking at stuff from a consumer perspective. I'm looking at it to the point where when it becomes the iPad, or when it becomes popular, now seeing behind the scenes, and there's some gritty stories, you know what I mean? Seeing behind the scenes and watching how stuff develop is so phenomenal. And also it gives you a different kind of work ethic as a person, because you have to put in a lot of work into these products. They go through so many developmental stages just to get to the final before the average person can consume them consistently. So it's just really given me a whole new perspective on how work ethic works, how any industry operates, and just how like time and how much dedication you have to put towards stuff. And just the insight of some people, like, to come up with these stuff, it's like, how do you think of this? And it's just, it gives you a new appreciation of simplicity, because all these things, all they look at is the simplest thing, and how to make it something, and how to make it more simple for everybody, you know? So yeah, definitely, it's been an experience.
You gave a talk at some company that was up on YouTube, and I watched it. You said something like, the crazy people will one day rule the world. And you were citing things like the Wright brothers and all these other people that at the time were talking about absolutely insane ideas, right? And what, are you saying the same thing with tech?
Yeah, I'm saying the same thing, yeah. I definitely think probably every tech entrepreneur I've met, they have that consistent factor whereby they're they're visionaries, you know what I mean? They suggest some stuff to me, and I'll say, like, where are you getting this from, you know what I mean? And I think these are the people that end up coming to the forefront of the industries, the people who are really just out there and put out ideas that they're not conceivable right now. And I like being around those people, because they make me push my boundaries of understanding and exploration into new things.
Which is weird, because it's almost the opposite of art. Because a lot of artists would be like, no, I'm creative, and I would never want to know like how a company works, or what about costs, or what about marketing expenses, or all that stuff. Yeah. But you're loving seeing that.
I love it. I mean, I view my art to an extent as a business, and you know, obviously I don't want the art itself to be reflective as a business, but the context, the structure of how to make it sustainable and stuff. There's a business capacity to it. So I like learning all that stuff, and having developed a lot of my stuff quite organically and by myself, I realize I'm able to give them a lot of like input into do stuff. And when I see them do stuff and it works, for me, it's kind of like, it gives me validity of my methods and what I know, and it kind of helps increase my confidence as well.
So you're like an advisor, kind of.
To an extent, I give some good advice. I'll be like, oh, you know, I'd say it. I would have said it to a group of my friends in the past, and they would have thought I'm crazy. But I say it to this group of people, and they're like, that might work. They implement it, and then I'm like, or someone else tells them to implement it, and then I'm like, oh wow, like my idea is good. There is that frustration whereby you can walk into a lot of places, and because you're not from a marketing company, you don't have this kind of background, like people will just disregard your idea, then do it 2 weeks later because someone else said it who's higher up, you know?
Right. Yeah, I guess that's always industry, right? No, but this whole industry is exciting. I mean, we started our show 6 months ago, Silicon Reel.
Yeah.
And it's just the people you meet. I mean, I used to make a funny joke about it, is that you meet people who actually like their jobs.
Yeah.
You know,
passionate.
Which is rare, right? I mean, like I'd say 8 out of 10 people I meet don't like their job.
Yeah.
So these people are passionate, you know, they're obviously breaking the mold. They're counterintuitive. They are artists.
Yeah, they are artists, very
really.
much like artists. I think that's why I relate to the tech industry, because it's all rebellious, you know what I mean? And the fact that you get people to fund these rebellious ideas is winning, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's disruptive, rebellious. And you made an analogy in that talk you gave, like Kodak versus Instagram. It's crazy, because you said it's like Kodak had 100 and some thousand employees, and then Instagram with 13. And it's just like crazy. If you just think like if somebody in Kodak had said, all right, I'm going to take 100 groups of 13 people, send them to a cabin on different places, give them some money, and let them come up with it. But the mentality is not that way. It's not that way. So it's just these game changers.
It's crazy. Apparently Samsung implemented something like that, whereby the whole module was that they situate different employees in different parts of the world for like 2 years or something like that. And then when they come back, they have an understanding of that area. They have relationships there, and they did it in one of the countries like Russia or something like that. Then like the years later, they became one of the leading phone providers in Russia or something like that. That kind of idea of just like exploring and, you know, going really out there.
Yeah, Steve Jobs did that early on at Apple, I think, or Next, one of the two companies where he was at, where he took a small core group and he hired like opera singers and all these people that nothing to do with tech. And he even put himself and he separated them completely from the company where the manufacturing was going on, and they worked on the Next computer because he knew he had to keep them away from all the normal nonsense and the ways of thinking. And everyone was going to tell him, no, you can't do that because we can't manufacture
That is what you get.
But, you have to have that foresight, I think,
You always, he's a genius for that, because you do get that, you can't do that, that doesn't make sense, you know what I mean? And some of the companies, that's what I like, particularly even with at the Cano office, is there's a lot of creative people in one place, so you get a lot of ideas, a lot of crazy ideas, like, but they all like coming together to make something good happen.
Which is the opposite of what you do, because you create art on your own. Or do you?
I used to.
Okay.
Well, that's what I'll say. I still do, but I'm trying to collaborate more. You know what I mean? Because I've seen what collaboration does, and I'm now trying to collaborate more and open the playing field. Whereby, not saying that people are gonna start writing stuff for me or something like that, but I'm now more open to, okay, you think this is an idea? What is it? So sometimes we go in the studio with someone, and I'll be like to the engineer, what do you think? Give me, because I've realized the power of collaboration, and if it's applied in an art context, I'm thinking, wow, what could actually happen? So it's because I've spent my whole life in isolation. To this day I create stuff in my room by myself.
Yeah.
But I'm really trying to explore that world of, let me get this producer in and let him do it. Because especially trying to go into music and more auditory, it's going to be a lot of things that I may not have that much of a innate knack for, you know what I mean? And I don't want it to just be representative of me. I want it to have a unified effort. But ultimately, I'm going to have the final say. No one's going to take over what I'm doing. But I really want to collaborate more with artists.
And I mean, in a way, maybe this trip of yours is kind of a collaboration in a weird way, because it forces you to be in contact with all these different people all around the world. But I think collaboration is crucial, man. I mean, the big strides we've had here on London Real is because I've had someone on, or partnered up with someone,
you know what I mean?
Or hanging out with you, or hanging out with someone, or getting a new lighting guy in. And
you see what I'm saying?
And you see those huge steps forward. Boom, boom.
Good. And that's what I'm really just trying to emulate in the context of my art, that make more stuff with people, like with the directors we're working with. I just said, you do what you got to do, then send me the script back, and then I'll be like, I like this, I like that. But before it was like, this is how I want it to be like this, and but now it's like, just do whatever you want, and I'll turn up on the day or something like that.
Right. So don't micromanage it too much.
Don't micromanage it,
and wait for those pleasant surprises
that
they bring you, and then use those, right?
And it's proved really productive. I went up I worked with a director in Manchester. That was a phenomenal experience. I didn't expect nothing of what happened. We went up there. I just left it to it. I only spoke to him on the phone. He showed me some of his stuff. I was like, Picture Lock Productions. And I said, let's go for it, innit? So I went up there, and he had a 13-man crew set up. He took out like the room in his house. He disassembled it so we could make it into a dorm room. He got a school. He went into a school, during the school hours, and we were filming. And I was like,
and everything, right?
With the kids in there and everything.
Awesome.
I was like, wow. But I think that's the power of not micromanaging stuff and collaborating.
Right. And I think one thing you see in the tech industry as well, and something that we consistently hit on Silicon Reel, is that you need these people in the same room.
Yeah.
Like, you can't collaborate truly on Twitter or on Facebook. It's like you got to be in the same room, bouncing ideas off each other, and feeling everyone's vibe.
The atmosphere, that's what you definitely need to create, the atmosphere. And some people don't get it. I've been in studio with people, and I'm like, I want you to come with your opinion. And then people say to me afterwards, they're like, you don't seem like you know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. I'm trying to make everybody have a say and make something good, you know what I mean? But some people don't get it. It's still, in the outside of that world, people don't understand that collaborative effort. Everyone is like, I have to do it myself so I can take the credit, you know what I mean?
Where do you want to be when you're 40, man? Are you going to be like Dre, behind the scenes, mixing everything, running corporations? You probably will be. Like, you're going to be on like Forbes 100.
Oh, man.
Oh, Jesus. Or do you still want to be performing, do you think?
I have big dreams. I want to play Malcolm X. Remember I telling you this the other day?
Yeah. Oh yeah, with this acting, right?
No, that's like a side dream.
I was like, it's already been made. Like, can be made again, right?
Yeah. But I definitely want to be like behind the scenes, and definitely I want to be able to instrumental within the industry, but not having to be so much consistently at the forefront. I like the way people step in when they need to step in. I don't want to be reliant on having to perform to increase to make revenue, or having to release something to be relevant. You know what I mean? I really want to have a firm hold whereby I have my industries operating, I have my stuff working for me, and then when I feel creatively inclined, I come out. I feel a lot of artists have fizzled out or have lost the sound about them, simply because they need to keep on creating to stay relevant. And when you do that too much to an extent, I think you lose what makes you genuine, because you're now mass producing as opposed to making it when you want. So I definitely want to explore every avenue. I'm definitely going to do with the spoken word. I started writing a book which will probably not get published for
It's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very hard. I won't finish it for maybe another 2 years or 3 years, whatever. I've got scripts that I wrote, you know.
Oh,
One day, I said to myself,
right.
when I'm 35, probably these scripts, I'll start putting them in, you know what I mean?
All right.
But I've written the scripts. I like them. I think they're really good scripts.
Like
Maybe
feature
they'll be
length?
outdated.
We're talking feature length?
Feature length, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I created a whole universe, you know what I mean? This is me having nothing better to do with myself, but yeah.
What do you use, Final Draft?
Final Draft. I was avid. I read a book called Save the Cat. I went on to, I did like webinars about writing scripts. So I've written the scripts. Maybe when I'm like 35, when I have like less ventures, I can start implementing that stuff, God willing. But I really want to push as much as I can with the spoken word, because that's what's giving me the platform, as much as I can, while I still have the energy to do it, perform, like do an 80-day trip around the world while I still have the energy. And then when I get older, I want to be in a position where if I want to go 80 days around the world, I can, but I don't have to, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, there's nothing worse than seeing an artist that has to keep putting that album out, and then when they put an album out that people don't like, they have to go back to the genre that made people happy.
Yeah.
I know Usher was struggling a bit with that, where he tried to go this way and everyone wanted to go
Yeah,
this
you
way.
know what I
And
mean?
you want to be, ultimately, you want to be diversified.
Yeah,
don't you?
I don't want to be confined. There's some kind of tech that I think is related to art that I'm gonna find myself in, and kind of some kind of startup or some kind of business that's related to art. What is really interests me at the moment is marketing, simply because I feel like I'm quite a good self-promoter and marketer, and I think if I can go into like a company or somewhere and give them that advisory role, which doesn't take too much of my time, and build my portfolio through that respect, I think marketing is definitely something that is consistent, because you always have to come up with creative campaigns and all that kind of stuff. That's something that I'd like to do, and then I think from there I'm going to start broadening into making something that whether it be maybe like a platform where people can, it helps people facilitate their art, maybe if it's headphones, but I think there's something kind of tech which I will kind of think of and get involved in, like when I do have the capital or whatever.
You know, something about your art I always want to ask you is that, you know, you always put the points of view out there that are kind of conflicting with, say, the status quo, but you don't pose yourself as like the revolutionary. You don't pose yourself as the Malcolm X. You don't pose yourself as the guy who is like, these are the changes you're going to make, and come with me, and we're going to make these changes, and screw everyone else. You've always had this different way of looking at things, and I was wondering if you could tell me why. Why aren't you the revolutionary guy? Why are you the guy that's more pensive about that stuff? Or am I calling that right?
No, you're calling it right. I actively, because I think to be a revolutionary to the extent of like people like, for instance, if you said like Malcolm X or like, Che Guevara, these guys were willing to put their lives at stake for the cause they were fighting for, you know what I mean? I'm making videos on YouTube, like, if I'm not willing to go out there and actively promote the stuff I'm talking about and do on an active basis, I don't think I'm entitled to be telling people to do it, you know what I mean? I can't really respect someone who's telling someone this, do that, but you're just in the studio making music about it rather than actively doing it, you know what I mean? And I know that I'm an artist, that's what I enjoy doing. For me to commit my time to actively go in to do all these things, I may not be feasible, I may not do it, you know what I mean? So I'm just putting the thought out there, and if I spark a thought in your head, fair enough, you know what I mean? And I'm very against this mentality of someone has to be the leader. I'm very against the mentality that someone has to lead everybody else. I think everybody should find their own way. I find it prevalent in stuff like religion, or even when it comes to like war and all that kind of stuff. And I think it inhibits people, and at the same time it causes more damage than good, because people start to look up to one person and their opinion becomes a unified opinion, when I think the world is about diversity. So whether I'm saying something, it's not do this is me, this is what I think. You can choose to acknowledge it, but you don't have to follow it, because ultimately I want everyone to find their own path. I really like, I'm not Buddhist or anything, but I really like some of the philosophies of Buddhism whereby it's not imposed that everybody has to be a certain way about it,
And you probably could have easily been that guy. I'm sure people have asked you to be that guy. I bet you could have sold more albums if you were that guy, right? So is it a conscious decision to make that not to be him?
It is a conscious decision. I mean, short term, I would have probably made more things, because you got people rallied around the cause, innit? People are willing to die for a cause. So if you'd easily sell more products if people for that cause, But it is a conscious decision that I don't want people to look up to me as the person that they have to follow. I'm a human being. I'll make mistakes, and I'm just following my path the same way I want you to chase your path. And in a sense, it's against everything I stand for. I'm all against the structure of the school just adhering to one type of people. So how can I now say advocate only one way for people to do something right? It's contradictory to an extent. A lot of people do that, but they don't realize a lot of people advocate certain beliefs like, oh, everyone has to be unified, but then they'll be like, but these people aren't part of our group because they don't believe this, which is contradictory to that belief of being unity, you know what I mean? So I don't want to be in that position whereby I'm contradicting myself.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What do you do for relaxation and creative inspiration? Now you mentioned that you used to write screenplays. I just wonder what kind of books do you read, and what kind of do you consciously say I need to be doing this or doing that, or do you watch certain videos or follow certain people on Twitter? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm really bad in the respect that I think everybody I meet kind of has a structure about like how to hack life and make the most of the spare time that you have. Or, like read specific books about this, hack that, or watch these TED Talks, you know what I mean? Everyone has it, but with my recreational time, I just make it as fluid as possible. Like, I really think that's what my art is fluidity. There's no structure to it. I haven't read a book for about 2 months now.
Okay.
Just because I've been listening to music and trying to understand it, I've been in my room strumming a guitar for about the last 2 months, you know what I mean?
You any good? Is it hard? It looks hard, man.
It's hard, but it's possible.
Everybody wants to play guitar until they get it out.
Yeah, it's difficult. Your fingertips are going to be hurting, yeah.
All right.
It's hard, but I just really think like I'm about letting life take control at times, rather than trying to, because with what I do and what I'm trying to achieve is so much focus of trying to make something happen. When I'm not in that space, I do anything. I watch there's a site called Watch Mojo, and it shows top 10 of everything. It'll say top 10 alien girls or top 10 business movies, top 10, you understand? Okay. I can sit on that for about an hour.
What's it called? I'm going to start watching.
Watch Mojo.
Watch Mojo.
Yeah.
Okay. And that just gives you ideas and you go from there.
Because you need to draw ideas from somewhere. If I just watch TED Talk all day inspiring, that's all I'd regurgitate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to just be a copy machine regurgitating, so I just look through everything, as much things as possible. I spend a lot of money on comic books, but those are not the only things I read. Then I'd read something that's quite profound. I'm trying to read 1984 by George Orwell, but at the same time, I've turned the first page and that's it.
Okay. Is it hard to read?
I just haven't. It's not the time for me to read it. You know what I mean? That's not my thought process at the moment. My thought process is more music orientated at the moment. For some reason.
It's like that with books. Sometimes you can't force them. Like sometimes you read a book and it's not the time yet, and then later it fits in.
Yeah, you know what I mean. When I'm experiencing one of the moments where I'm in a hotel and I'm missing home, then I'll probably pull it out, and that'll probably be the time to read it.
Yeah, or maybe if you're in a certain city or something like that. I remember I tried reading Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom, and I tried it. It's a big ass book, and I mean no disrespect, but I used to call it the Long Walk to Boredom. No disrespect. And I know it's terrible, and I'm gonna get some hate for that. But then I went to South Africa and I was in Cape Town, right? Yeah. And then I started reading
because it has a context now, innit?
And then then I couldn't put it down.
Did you finish it while you were there?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I would ask people about things and the different tribes, and then it was all made sense, And so then that was the time to read that book. And then that's how it's been that way with other books as well.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I don't think you should force. Recreational time is recreational, isn't it? I think if you make it too much, then it becomes work as well.
Yeah, and you got to shut down a bit.
Yeah, you have to. Like if my nephew wants to play with me, I'll play Super Mario with him for an hour or so, and I just see all of that as learning. Maybe if I had a different profession, then it wouldn't be learning, but for me that's all learning. I play Super Mario on the Super Nintendo, and I'm like, this is very cleverly designed. The levels are quite difficult. It's very cleverly designed, so I'm learning from that process, and that would come out in my material sometime or sooner or later.
When are we going to see your acting debut?
We'll see when I get the call for that Malcolm X role. It's either going to be Malcolm X or Kwame Nkrumah. Then you'll see the acting debut.
So you're gonna go feature length or nothing, right?
Feature length or nothing. I'm not about playing, an artist, small time artist coming up. No, it's straight up.
What if you played the young Will Smith?
Yeah, that would work for me. Maybe. That would work. A biopic of Will Smith.
Maybe a biopic of his time on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, because that one guy just passed away from that series.
Oh yeah.
Maybe so. All right.
I might have to give him a call. I was call his agent and say no, because I'm adamant. I mean, I don't want to be an actor. I hate acting. I don't hate acting. I hate being on the set. It's so long. It's so boring.
It's the most unglamorous place in the world.
Exactly.
But no one gets that.
No one does. When we were filming, they film one scene, then they take about 15 minutes to turn the camera around just to film the same thing again from a different angle.
Yeah, and that happens once every few hours.
Yeah, right? I was like, what?
It's a long, hard work.
long.
I don't know how some of these actors do it.
I really don't.
You look at someone doing a whole movie like just you watch a 3-hour film. I mean, that was 8 weeks every day. It's fun. I don't even know how they can look the same with the same expression.
Yeah.
But they're coming today. Some days like, oh fuck this. This is gonna be a horrible.
That's how you're
day.
gonna. That's why I think they just look at the end product and be like, it's gonna be worth it. But I really, really can't fathom. It's so time consuming. But I might do something here and there in between, You know when sometimes when your celebrity gets high, you get a little role somewhere. So hopefully I'll just play a little, Mino
do cameos.
role.
You might do a cameo.
Do a little Mino role. But the main feature length is feature length.
That's
or
what
nothing.
you want. Okay.
Yeah, I want feature length.
I think directors and producers, they look for actors that can handle a feature length. And actually, I read an interview with Jude Law one time where he said, as the lead actor on a feature length, he had to almost like rally the troops and be like the leader
Serious.
and inspire everybody on the set. So he's like, everyone was looking to him to be like, okay, let's
Always
go.
have the energy.
Good mood, all that thing. So that's something you can look forward to later.
I'm going for it, man. I'm not gonna play no like comedy or nothing. Just going straight, serious, hardcore.
I like that, man. I'm going to ask you this every time you come on the show, which hopefully is a few more in the next few years. And I know I already asked this before, but it's the advice question. And I thought about not asking you this, but this changes. Every year you probably grow. You probably think to yourself, oh, that's different. And you're a different guy than you were a year ago. So, what's the usual thing? If you could give some advice to the 20-year-old Sully, what would you tell him now? What would you tell him?
I'll tell him to plan everything. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, I had a plan, but I never, like Eric Thomas said something, he said be informed, which I thought was really interesting. That's
Being
a good
informed.
Understand what you're gonna do and have a plan. But my 20-year-old Suli would be like, this is all gonna happen. Now just plan how it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? The ambitious, believe. Obviously, my advice before would have been believe. It's gonna happen. Believe you don't even need. You just need to plan what you're gonna do when it happens and how you're gonna structure everything and just make the most of it. That's what I'd be. I'd look back and just plan every single step of the way.
Because a lot of people have the belief and the talent and they never execute.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Never and it's not even just so much on executing, it's just that it's gonna happen and it's very overwhelming and it's hard to keep up, you know what I mean? But sometimes you have to take a step back and be like, okay, 6 months, this is how I'm gonna do it. There's just a structure around what you do, you know what I mean? Structure is really, really important. And that's what I'd say just plan the structure about what you're gonna do. Like you were talking about Mike Skinner the other day, you said he sat down and he cut the album for a certain amount of months, then came out and started doing everything else, you know what I mean? That's kind of structure, you know what I mean? He had everything solidified and then set out, you know what I mean?
So give yourself a structure.
Give yourself a structure, give yourself a structure, plan.
And what kind of time frame for people listening? What would you say? Like, is it like a 6-month thing? Is that, or,
But I'll give yourself a long-term goal, maybe about 2 years.
Okay. Where I want to be in those 2 years.
Yeah, give yourself a long-term goal and then make the steps. Because when you make the steps, each accomplishment gives you a bit more like energy to go into the next step, you know what I mean? Whereby if you're just pushing, sometimes a lot of people don't make it past that stage because to keep that enthusiasm, I'm fortunate I had people supporting me. To keep that enthusiasm is difficult when there's no short-term goals in sight, you know what I mean? So it's really just set back and even like a year ago, if you said to me, I said I wanted to be a director, I wouldn't have sat here and said that my script's going to get published when I'm 35. I would have been thinking that's going to take forever, you know what I mean? But it's that kind of, that foresight and that kind of understanding things take time. That's what I'd say, take that patience, like have patience and plan it.
And with that plan, it keeps you away from those day-to-day setbacks.
Day-to-day setbacks.
Because you know you're going for this X thing in the future. I had a guest over here, his name was Peter Sage, and he had this great advice that I don't even know if I've used yet. But he said, visualize where you want to be. Say it's you just wrapped on your feature film, and it's going to have a debut. And then walk the person you are now up to that point. It's pretty intense. So, you visualize, okay, now I've just done this. How did I get here? And then you call the old Sully and you say, okay, look, first you got to do this. Then you got to get in touch with this director. You got to do a few acting lessons. You got to keep up your spoken word career. You got to do the ideas. But these are the steps to get you there.
Yeah, that's a good piece of
advice. And
if
you do it from the one that's already accomplished it, I think it's a bit like planning, like you said. You have to do X, Y, Z, and you get there.
Yeah, you get there. It's true. That's what I'm saying. Just that foresight, rather than just trying. When you see the wall, you just want to bang against it until it breaks down in it, and it will break down eventually. Whereas if you carefully remove one brick at a time, you know what I mean? It's less stressful.
Okay, that's good. What's best advice you've received to this date in your life? Have you got good advice the last year?
Yeah, I've got good advice.
And maybe some from like tech people, tech industry, or anything that sticks out?
Make a good product. That's probably
okay.
and people. I think that's probably the best advice I got. And I don't think, without putting it into context, I don't think people would understand. But I have lots of ideas, and there's a lot of things that I want to do at once. In it, that was my mindset. And then a friend of mine, he said to me that what people want is one good product. You know what I mean? People, all the other stuff, I think he said that they call it skunk work or something like that. I'm not sure in the tech world, but he said all the other stuff will come, and it's all the stuff that you have the guys in the lab in Oregon working on in it.
It's all the crazy ideas.
Yeah, it's all the
That's
crazy,
skunk work,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
it's skunk work.
Do you understand? Yeah, skunk work. But make one good product. You know what I mean? And then make that as good as possible. You know what I mean? Make that product good as possible. Rather, and that's the most important thing. You know, people want something they can really connect with, and something that's really, really good. And that's where I think that's a big thing for me, because I was someone who's consistently producing. There was a point where I was posting a video every 2 weeks, and for an artist that's quite difficult. You're thinking of something fresh every single week. You know what I mean? And that's my whole mentality: consistency. But sometimes, and I try to explain this to people, and they just find it difficult. Sometimes to do something and give it 3 months to improve it. Sometimes that's important, because it gives you one good product, and that good product is going to go a lot further than the product that you made in maybe 3 weeks, you know. And some people may say to me, why are you taking so long to put out another video? Because some videos we've been sitting in them for like 3 months, you know, discussing them, how it's going to come out. So I think that's probably the best advice I've received, and hopefully I'm going to see the fruits of that, having that advice.
So put out a good product like the iPad or the Kano or the Suli Breaks completely polished, beautifully directed video.
Yeah, do you understand? Completely product, you know what I'm saying? Even like you said with the video, you know what I mean? Just really like, you know, just make it something. Because when I watch stuff I like, I think a good product is something. I read a comic book recently, and I spent £22 on that comic book, which is a lot of money. And my girlfriend said to me, why would you spend £22 on a comic book? But after I read that, I felt so satisfied, and I said, this is a good product. Like, I don't know how long it took him to make it. It's written by a guy called Neil Gaiman. He wrote something called The Sandman, which is one of the few comics that get critically acclaimed in the New York Times bestseller list. And I read it after. I felt satisfied. I felt like I hadn't paid enough for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the kind of feeling I want to give people each time. That good product feeling.
Yeah, and you think about it, your videos aren't going anywhere. I mean, they're gonna be around for a long time.
I hope so, man.
So yeah, they should be the best, right?
Yeah, they should be, man. They really should be. And that's my whole ethos going into this next year. And that's coming off the trip. That's what I'm working on. I'm working on making a good product that people can listen to over and over again and watch over and over again.
These are exciting times, man. Last part of that question. You're going to meet some 20-year-old kid in Ghana when you're performing, or you're going to meet some 20-year-old kid in Beijing. You're going to meet these people all over the world.
Yeah.
And then they might come up to you after the concert and be like, you know, Sully, I want to do X. You know, what do I do? You know, what do you tell these guys? You must get advice questions all the time. You must get to a point where you're probably sick of them. I don't know. But what would you tell them, you know, to the people listening right now?
And yeah, like I said, I don't like giving advice because I don't like being the person to tell people what to do. But if he came up to me and he said he wants to do X, I'll say to them, people often want stuff, but they don't often work like they want that. You know what I mean? I say, what's your commitments at the moment, innit? And if they say, oh, it's going to school or whatever, or it's me working, I'll say, well, whatever time you're spending doing what your commitment, outside of that time, everything needs to be focused towards that goal. You know what I mean? You need to understand that's a sacrifice you're going to make, because that goal is not going to come unless your focus is 100% on it. And obviously it's not feasible to be 100% focused, because some people have other things they need to do. But just know that every time outside of that, it's got to be focused for that goal, because that goal is not going to happen by itself. And sometimes I give an analogy of, like, imagine a shopkeeper who runs a shop, but he only turns up in the shop once a week. Like, you're gonna stop going to that shop. Why do I have to go on Monday to go and get my milk? You know what I mean? I need milk on Tuesday or Friday. So I give that analogy, and I say to people, because a lot of people want stuff, but they work towards it half-heartedly. They work haphazardly. Like, if I get a chance, I'll do it. You know what I mean? I train with a guy in the gym, and he goes to the gym consistently. When you know people that see, when you go to the gym and you see people with results, it's not the ones that go consistently. You know what I mean? You see them every week, consistently, the same time, same hours, and those are the ones that see results. And that's a good way to analogy for if you want to be successful. You have to put in those hours and that time, and you have to understand that's your commitment. If you need to miss a day at work for that commitment, that's what you got to do. Even if you need to miss a day at school, that's your commitment. You know what I mean? And I think I want someone to grasp that and understand the level of work it takes to ascertain and reach something.
Strong advice, man. Strong advice. Around the world in 80 days. How do we follow you? How do we find out about it? Talk to me. I mean, I'm going to be following you.
Yeah, I mean, it's all going to be the platforms: Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and then I've got a site which should be launching probably tomorrow, because we finished the video, and the site's going to, depending on when this airs, but the site's going to be sulibreaks80days.com.
SuliBreaks80days.com. And is there a formal name to it? Is it around the world in 80 days? What is it?
I had another name, which I can say it on London Real, but yeah, it wouldn't fly with other newspapers. Like, it was Journey into the Uneducated World, if you know what I mean, or Journey into the New World, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, which is kind of, it was a bit too strong, you know what I mean?
Was it? Into the uneducated world?
Yeah, uneducated world.
What do you mean by uneducated world?
I don't even know what I mean. What I really meant was that, because prior to everybody being successful in these things they were doing, people would have viewed them as failures, you know what I mean? The same way what I'm doing, it's like, this guy, he's an educated guy, why is he doing that? So the alternative to being educated, you're uneducated, you know what I mean? People say, oh, he's highly educated, why does he want to do this? I just got that consistently, you know what I mean? And I just felt like that was an interesting kind of turn of the phrase, that it's journey into the world, whereby until it's successful, people don't appreciate it, you know what I mean? Someone has a startup, until the startup's doing a certain amount of revenue, people will be like, what's going on, you know what I mean? This is not a very viable means. Why are you following this path? You're not that clever, it doesn't make sense. So it was just that uneducated that was in it, but it was a bit too strong, and it wasn't entirely representative, you know what I mean?
So you're admitting to everyone that what you're doing looks kind of crazy.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
And it looks like something an educated person might do.
Yeah.
And okay, I like that.
You know what I mean? I would, but you know, some people are like, obviously London Real was cool to say, but some people are a little bit like conservative and like, you know, so it's there in the background, but it's not going to be at the forefront. It's a journey into inspiration, innovation, and information, I suppose.
And this is from a man with a law degree that people forget sometimes.
Yeah, people do forget. I think it's going to expire soon, actually.
Is it? But you're still glad you got that, right?
Yeah, I'm glad for the experience, you know. I mean, I'm totally glad for the experience. I wouldn't take it away, you know, because it helped me become the person I am. And I'm, like I always say, I don't advocate someone just dropping out of school for the sake of it, or not going that route just because someone else said so. Like, you know what I mean? Make your own decisions and find yourself. There's so much to be gained going that way. And there's so much, like, you know, so I just think it's each to his own. I'm definitely glad I went and got my law degree. I may not ever use it, but, you know.
Yeah, I'm appreciative for a lot of the things that I wasn't appreciative for in the past.
Yeah, you have to, you know what I mean? That's what I say. And that's another reason why I don't want to come out so strong, because I know maybe like 10 years from time, I may have kids and stuff, and I'll be like, that wasn't... Look at Mandela, look at Malcolm X, you know what I mean? When they were young, they said a lot of things which at the time, like, they made sense and they were strong, but when they look back in hindsight, that wasn't the best way to achieve what they wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't want to come across as be that person like, this is that is that. When you're going to grow older, you're going to grow wiser, and you're going to look back at these things in a different light.
You know, one of the fringe benefits I have, Suli, is I get to meet very cool people every week, and sometimes I get to hang out with them afterwards. And you're one of those guys. So thanks for coming on again. Thanks for co-hosting me in the past.
Pleasure, man.
Are we becoming friends?
I think so. You know, I think so, man.
It's crazy,
Couple
man.
more cups of bulletproof. You know?
Dude, man, I love this. It's really inspirational, man. I mean, when I watch you doing this trip, I think, you know, what am I doing?
Oh,
you know, what am I doing to push myself? So I don't know. I think this is so cool. We're going to be following you on Twitter and stuff at Suli Breaks.
Yeah.
If you listen to us on iTunes and you want to see our faces, you can check us out on YouTube channel London Real.
Yeah.
If people want to get in touch with your stuff, what, YouTube's the best? iTunes?
YouTube's probably the best.
Yeah, YouTube to find your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. You know, as we say, it's about the journey.
Always, man.
You got a crazy journey coming up. When you leaving?
28th of January.
28th of Jan. Okay, so that'll be right after this episode airs.
Yeah.
Stay in touch, man. Feel free to send me an email, you know, and let me know how you're doing.
Yeah,
and
I will, man.
when you get back, you know, we'll get together and you can give me the proper download.
I will, man, definitely.
All right, dude. All the best, and peace be with you.
Likewise, man.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, cool.
This week on London Real, we have former SAS surgeon and disaster medic, Richard Viller.
You want to imagine total destruction. I mean, I don't mean just a few houses down. The only properties I saw intact were 2 churches made of stone. It was the strongest typhoon ever to have made landfall. And of course, the water is contaminated, and so you can't just close up or sew up, suture up a wound when you have that contamination, because you know if you do, you're going to harbour an infection. My job, as it was with Haiti and others, is to be in there as early as I can humanly be, because that's when I'm most used. Everyone was stood for the whole flight. That's takeoff, on the cruise, and landing in turbulence. You are stood. As I sit and talk to you now, I can still see in my mind certain scenes which I would rather not have seen.
On Sunday, London Real presents Richard Viller, disaster medic.
It's a huge responsibility, which personally I take enormously seriously.